So this is a discussion of the VB audio software, and VB stands for Vincent Burel, the author. And like Brad, he's a solopreneur, a developer who works and develops all of these products himself. His approach is kind of interesting in that he makes it all donationware for the most part. He does have some products under the Pro Audio section. He has some products that are purchase only. And if you want the extra VB cables, that's for purchase only. But he gives you the first one's free. So anyway, let's go ahead. You see his page. He covers his big topics: his virtual audio cable, the Voicemeeter, Spectralissime, which you might not know about. It's a very, very good, very fast meter spectrum analyzer, and it doesn't use FFT. And in fact, there's a video on this page that I'll show you that compares FFT types of spectrum analyzers, which are slow pokey as all get out and require all kinds of extra settings to get anything close to what this does, and this type of meter. So, which is super fast. And then you got, this is the stuff for Pro, mostly for radio and recording of radio type things. Touch button, sound pad, kick out your jingles for radio and stuff like that. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the audio apps that most concern us. And that would be the virtual audio cable, a Voicemeeter. You see the tabs across the top. This is the original Voicemeeter, the base Voicemeeter, which I recommend musicians go directly to this one, Banana. And Potato is a larger version, a grander version of Banana with more hardware strips assignable and one extra virtual audio and all your outputs. But it shares many features with Banana, like the EQs, good parametric EQ on each output, and the ability to do mix downs and channelizing and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we'll go through those. V-Band is a network broadcast solution for getting stuff to another part of the house, for instance. So you can play your media player in the living room and pipe it up to any bedroom over a phone or over another computer. The Voicemeters have it built in to be able to be senders or receivers, and there's a standalone also. It started out a little rough, trying to keep a consistent signal, and I've seen it just improve and improve and improve and improve, and now it's just about flawless, and gets that audio in all the time, everywhere it's supposed to go. And a neat use for it is to give a bunch of people the Receptor app, and you can have everybody listening on their phones with their headphones to the same output, same broadcast. And I can see that having a lot of uses, especially for like lectures and things like that, where people are in a large space, like an outdoor sculpture gallery or something like that, or touring NASA. And then finally the Spectralissime. And down here at the bottom are the comparison videos. This RTA versus FFT is quite good, and in fact they're all good. And this is super fast. It's ridiculous how fast. And again, it's a donationware. They like you to purchase a license if you like it. He has been doing the donationware approach since day one, pretty much. So I always donate, but I also make videos. If you look like at the bottom of this page, you'll see a video by me. And I've got an hour-long video on just this, where we go through the entire manual. And then he features a few of my videos here on using it for other uses, with the insert, using it for podcast, the one on connecting it to effects and stuff like that. So I've made a few videos on this stuff, and they are available over here at my page. I have, this is broken into sections, so you see the Voicemeeter tutorials. Some of these cross over and are also Voicemeeter / Cantabile tutorials, and a bunch of Cantabile tutorials, a bunch of open broadcaster software tutorials. And Cam Studio is a video software that I pretty much replaced myself by using OBS for all my recording needs. But it was a lightweight video recorder solution that was okay for the 2000s, but I think it's been superseded since then. Yeah, I have my live shows that I have done, and other videos in all kinds of topics, digital performer and Samplitude, you name it, cover everything. But the Voicemeeter tutorials are pretty extensive and include many things that have to do with connecting with Cantabile. And there's also in the Cantabile section, like Cantabile Lite especially. And in the Cantabile section are more. This has been very popular, the hooking up ARC2. In fact, I should retitle it because it's now ARC3. And using Cantabile Lite as a host for effects. And so it's basically showing how to do this same idea, more generalized.
Yeah, I've been running that way since, so all my Windows audio is going through ARC3.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Just by default, everything runs through there. I just have Voicemeeter start right up automatically, and start up Cantabile is a startup thing. You just throw its folder, you throw its shortcut into the startup folder in Windows.
Yep.
And bingo, you're rolling every time. Sometimes I do have to kickstart it by turning the power switch on and off a few times on Cantabile to get it to sync with Voicemeeter. It'll go out of sync once in a while. Do robot voice. And
yeah, I've had that happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
But once it does kick in, it's stable and never drops out.
Right.
Okay, so let's start with the virtual audio cables. These are so useful. Although Voicemeeter provides you with essentially two virtual audio cables right here. That's what these two really are, is they're ways that you can output any media player or anything that's got an output right into these by selecting them as the target. And then you've got this metering, and you can output it out of two targets, which is two more virtual cables that can go into any software. And so in a sense, this is a self-contained bunch of virtual cables that you're getting in the software here. But some people like to run lighter because Voicemeeter does take up some resources, and the straight cable is much lighter weight. So if you're not needing the mixer, not needing the recorder, not needing all the routing, then this does a nice job if you're staying in the Windows audio realm. Now, as you discovered using the hi-fi cable, which is this guy here, hi-fi cable goes into the ASIO, and you turn it on, and bingo. And as you can see, it's reading my microphone output. And you select your device, and you can even select the Voicemeeter virtual ASIOs as the target. Oh, and this is the latency I was talking about, where you can lower the latency down to 512. And they keep it high so that it's having a very low impact on the CPU. Hope that's showing. So this is something I need to experiment as far as two-way operation. It does have ASIO routes over here on the left and right. So it looks like you might be able to route stuff in multiple directions. I do know that in your Windows Audio, once you get to down here under sounds, and at least on my computer it does. And it always takes a while to load in. And then you get to the recording and playback sections, and that's where you select these guys for whether you're going to use it. There's my VB audio hi-fi cable for playback, so this would be my output of Windows. I would select this as my output from what a Windows only, type of thing like iTunes or most media players, VLC, etc. And I would select this as my playback device. And let's take a look. And there you do have hi-fi cable as an output device. So apparently you can get from the hi-fi cable back into Windows through this routing. Just never worked with it because I've always been a Voicemeeter person and always use Voicemeeter for my playback and recording defaults.
Based on my experience, the Voicemeeter, Banana seems easier just to use.
Well,
That's just someone watching this video. It's just you install it, and when you route something, you kind of just see what you're doing, and
well,
you're not hopping around inside Windows. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm just commenting. I think the VB cables are really good, and I know I need to revisit them, but the Voicemeter routing seems easier.
It's direct, yeah.
Yeah.
It's you can tell what's going on. You get meters right away. They're easy to read.
Right.
But ASIO Bridge is pretty awesome. I mean, it'll do multi-channel, 8 channels. So once you figure out how to do it, you get the routing all working. But you got to do the routing outboard, so is what you're selecting to go in. Nonetheless, it's pretty fantastic that you can get it as donationware. Try it out, and then if it works for you, you do some stuff. Like here, they got a DVD player going in and coming back out again, and they're feeding Audacity from a input from your ASIO audio interface. So that's pretty cool. And you can feed something like Audacity, which has no respect for ASIO at all, and get it from there. Oh, by the way, you can, do you see how this says speakers? And it's really hi-fi cable. Let's say hi-fi cable. And you can change its icon to something else and apply, and then it shows up. Now this is very useful to do because Windows doesn't always title your things very, very wisely. I've had it come up and call Voicemeeter speaker before in different machines. And you just go in and you change the name so that it makes sense. So that's especially useful for these outputs, the aux outs that are your B1 and B2. You might want to change this so that it says B2. And this one to B1. So that you know when you're looking at the darn huge list what it is, because it can be a little bit confusing to remember that this is not an A output, this is the B's that are outputting to like Zoom or to some other device. Anyhow, but as long as you select it as your default, then it's going to come in strips, and probably should be showing some strips, shouldn't I? Yeah, so as long as you got playback device set to the strips, any playback will come into these. So I have it going to my default on this machine is that the aux input is coming in on this side. But you can, of course, that's selectable. This is just the default. In most software, I can select which one I want to output to. And then this side is these guys, the B's, where you're going to send those to. The VB cables are for Windows to Windows applications. So you're going from a Windows output to a Windows input and a Windows input to other things. And you can split things up. You can do split Y chords. You can do Y chord in either direction. Use it as a very rudimentary mixer, and it won't complain. The hi-fi cable is made so that you can talk to an ASIO device in a similar manner back and forth. Where Voicemeeter then comes in, this is to get started, as people get started with this. people are attracted to the fact that it will do multi-channel. Yeah,
Terry,
really.
at some point it'd be interesting to see the EQ settings you have there on the third channel.
Oh, nothing at the moment. It's just turned on because I was playing around with it. It's pretty darn tight though. It's nice how much control you've got over the frequency, the steepness, and you can go with various types. You can do a notch. Um, you can use it as shelves. So yeah, it's
What's the
fantastic.
difference between those shelves there? There are more than one. So what's the difference?
Oh, well,
Is,
one's high pass, one's low pass, and let me get the frequency up. So yeah, basically that's just it's high pass versus low pass, and then you adjust the frequency. And this one here starts. You see, it doesn't go to 0. It's a booster, and this one's a booster. So these boost from 0
okay.
or around 0, and these are drop to act as cuts. And you got a good peak. You got that one that starts up there. The peak is starting way down here, as you can see, and oh, that's not going to work there. But you're basically just doing a super focus on just one frequency. So it's useful when you're just trying to find out where that darn annoying frequency is, and you move it back and forth till you hear that ringing where, oh, that's the one right there, that's the frequency, and then you switch it over to a notch and get rid of it.
But what if you want to record with those EQ? Because in Cantabile you go, okay, you apply all plugins, effects, and so on, and then you can record directly on a file and so on. But if you apply EQ or some other effects on Voicemeeter, how can you go to a file from there and record what you have in Voicemeeter?
Well, you can use the B1 and B2 outputs, or actually one of the A's. You could send, like I send an A to that ADAT loopback so I can treat it as an input. And that's what that 1314 is. It's that ADAT
Okay,
loopback.
so you make a loopback in hardware with real cables or SPD for whatever, and you go back inside the PC again from another input.
Yes.
And so then you can, okay.
Yep. Also, the B1 and B2 those are the outputs, and they're Windows Audio, but I'll bet you could use that hi-fi cable to bring it into an ASIO device as an ASIO input with the EQ on it. Let's see, let me think that through. But I don't think its own recorder has access to the EQ.
To better understand, your system Voicemeeter is the only application which talks directly to the hardware, or not?
Yeah, it
all
talks
other
directly.
applications.
It doesn't supersede. I still can output Cantabile directly to the ASIO device. So in a way, it's making two ASIO devices, because this is virtual ASIO. And it's because it's locked in by making the A1 be the ASIO device, it then has access to all those channels in the menu here. But it doesn't say, oh, sorry, I'm using the ASIO device Cantabile, so you can't. No, Cantabile still has full access to the ASIO device. This is just tapping into the channels to the patch ASIO, is to bring the inputs into these strips. And this can patch the outputs from A2 and A3 out to your hardware, out to your ASIO. So that's why I'm using the A2 to send it to the ADAT for the loopback, and that makes it available then as an ASIO input through that loopback device. But that's available. Those outs are available through here that you can send direct. The B1 and B2 are always Windows audio system. So you're going to experience some latency if you're doing it that way because it's going through the Windows audio system. But that's its intention, is to be the tap into the audio mix for Windows devices like Zoom and Skype and Audacity and stuff like that are Windows audio only for their inputs.
Okay.
So if you're trying to get back into Cantabile, then you can use the A's and a loopback. But there's another method, and that's what we use in the technique to bring the speaker correction into Voicemeeter by using Cantabile as a host, and that is to set this up for its inserts. Oh, why did I even close that? The inserts are right there in front of me. These are insert patches that are pre-fader inserts. And in Cantabile, hope you can see that, under Options,
Yep.
Audio Engine, you'll see that because Voicemeeter's open, there's the ASIO Voicemeeter Insert Virtual ASIO. And that is what taps into a round trip system. That's pretty darn fast because it's staying in an ASIO realm. Okay?
Okay.
And so now you can tap into those inserts and grab off of the hardware inputs, the 1, 2, 3 hardware inputs, pre-fader, and it sends out to the ASIO device that's tapped into it through these inserts. And then as the ASIO device, as the ASIO software, I should say, kicks it back out again, it comes back in again pre-fader, and that's when it enters the fader and can be faded in and out. It still is an insert and doesn't give you access to the fancy parametric EQ. Parametric EQ is available if you got the loopback system and are using the A2 and A3 as your loopback, one of them going to a loopback. Then you can use A2, this strip here, and use its EQ and affect the output into the loopback. Okay, so I keep saying ADAT loopback because that's what I use, but it could be an SPDIF pair that you don't use, an in and out SPDIF that aren't being used. It could be a pair of just regular channels, audio channels that you're not using, so 7 and 8, 7 and 8 out to 7 and 8 in. Anything that you loop back into itself makes the output into an input visible by this ASIO software that you're using, like Cantabile or your DAW.